Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Jeremy Simon, and I will be presenting some discoveries and work we've completed with ASRS systems upgrades. Although the focus is on ASRS systems, this could translate to a variety of systems that require upgrading older software and require communications with SAP or other preferred platforms. An ASRS system is short for an automatic storage and retrieval system. An automated storage and retrieval system consists of a variety of computer-controlled systems for automatically placing and retrieving loads from defined storage locations. These systems are put in to increase the efficiency of systems, allow for smooth transition of data flow throughout the system, and lastly, to increase storage capacity. Just as a quick note before I continue, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat or feel free to reach out after the presentation. Time permitting, we will do our best to get around to them at the end. Just a quick introduction. I myself, Jeremy Simon, have been working in the controls industry now for 20 years. I started with programming and commissioning systems to eventually managing them, and now I handle a lot of our customer interfacing relationships. I've worked in many industries, including food and beverage, pharma, consumer goods, and utilities. And lastly, I've spent the last few years working with various customers and managing ASRS upgrades. Next, I'd like to introduce Travis Cox, who will be presenting some details later on around the Ignition software. He works with Inductive Automation, who has been integral in providing a platform that allowed for us to develop an open source solution that will be discussed later on. Travis has spent 16 years in the industry performing a variety of services such as support, training, and now sales engineering. He's an Ignition expert and has overseen numerous successful product launches across a variety of industries. Lastly, he has also been directly involved with various MES implementations. During this presentation, we'll also be hearing from Josh Kohut. He's one of our ASS experts and has lots of experience with programming and design across a variety of industries, and specifically has completed a lot of development within the ASRS space. I will be introducing him later on to speak to some of the graphics and features we've developed around these systems. Next, I'd like to discuss a little about why we were doing this webinar and discuss some of the industry trends. GrantTech over the last few years has grown quite a bit in terms of offerings and areas we assist our customers with. Much of this is led by our customers leaning on us for assistance and expertise. That's also a large reason we got into some of the ASRS work. We were asked to assist our customers with determining various risks, helping them understand those risks with training, and then providing them with the support and roadmaps to lead them into the future. It will be discussed during this presentation, but the industry is changing in terms of data access and safety requirements and the resulting risk that it brings. So through that, we want to bring awareness to the industry as a whole. In terms of the agenda, what we're going to do is we're going to begin just by going through ASRS upgrades in terms of why you would want to potentially do an upgrade and why now. We're also going to spend some time to look at weaknesses in industrial control systems. Part of that's going to look at some of the end-of-life hardware, legacy software, as well as some communications and other stuff that's starting to currently hit end of life. And then lastly, we'll just talk about some of the stuff that GrantTech can offer. The goal of the presentation is to review the opportunities for businesses to examine their existing systems. This could be your ASRS system, or it could be other areas of the plant as well. The biggest concern we've seen from a lot of our customers is systems that are now going on 20+ years since they last upgraded. So it becomes a large concern and risk when you have software that may not be supported or capable of being upgraded out there running on hardware that may also be at the end of its life. This presents a lot of risk to operations and is something that is becoming very hard for facilities to push off down the road. I would also add that this would apply for anyone with a newer system or even looking to put a new system in place. As we review the recent concerns we are seeing, it should be noted when it comes to designing or upgrading your future systems. As mentioned, a lot of various Windows systems are now at the end of their life and not supportable. The last few years have shown that with no more updates to older applications like Windows XP, there are vulnerabilities that people can use in a malicious way. This also applies to various hardware from various vendors out there. A lot of PLC vendors such as Rockwell, Siemens, GE, and others have various processors and stuff that are hitting the end of life. We are seeing plants now going to eBay to find spare processors or parts, and the costs of these keep rising, as well as the availability of some of the parts, depending on how old they are. One of the other huge benefits of upgrading is the ability to virtualize. Having a virtualized system is easier to maintain, back up, and test out potential changes. Virtualized servers are easier to manage and much more robust to potential security vulnerabilities. Most plants now have a virtualized hardware stack, so it makes sense to add as many systems as you can to it. And lastly, with a virtualized stack, there is more maintenance and backups that are completed on those systems as opposed to a computer that may be out on the shop floor. Another large concern with a few of our customers that have older systems that may require protocol converters or other units that handle data between systems, such as SAP. So we have seen where a system has difficulty communicating with SAP, and there needs to be a lot of either whether it be communication applications or protocol converters in between. Businesses need software that is flexible and can adapt. With the solution we've put in place, we're able to communicate directly to SAP to send up data and also pull in data for various things such as orders. We can also handle communications and synchronization between the two systems to improve performance and timing. This allows us to tell right away if there are communication errors or send up data screenshots for data validation. Another item that should be considered in some of the top weaknesses in industrial control systems, as mentioned prior, the following are a list of items that come up with older hardware and software. We end up with a lack of hardware inventory of parts that can cause downtime. Older software is potentially not as efficient. Older software was often developed to be executable and not accessible. Operating systems have short life cycles, and not updating them regularly can lead to issues. So for this reason, we wanted to go with an off-the-shelf software that allows our customers to have full access, doesn't require a lot of development time and cost, and that has the power to provide the features we needed, such as scripting, visualization, compliance, alarming, trending, security, reporting, and support. So at this point, I would like to again introduce Travis to walk everyone through a quick introduction to the Ignition software we selected as the platform for our primary development before we get into more details around what we developed. Welcome, Travis.
All right, thank you. So here we're going to talk about the Ignition platform. So as we have said, I'm with Inductive Automation and have been with them ever since the beginning of Inductive Automation. And we're a software company focusing on the Ignition platform. The Ignition platform is a development toolkit to build any kind of industrial application. Typically that falls into the category of HMI, SCADA, MES, or now with IoT, creating dashboards and getting data to infrastructure. But it really has a lot of features built in that, as a toolkit, gives you these fundamental building blocks to build these kind of applications. And from the very beginning, we have set out to reduce a lot of the barriers that are out there with being able to deliver the full solution to customers. So from the very beginning, we have some of the unique aspects of Ignitions. We've had an unlimited licensing model. So that means you pay for a server license and you get unlimited tags, screens, clients, device connections, and a lot more. So once you get that server in place, you can continue to scale up both in terms of the size of the application and the types of projects you want to build out. Ignition is also 100% cross-platform. So the entire stack runs on Windows, Linux, or Mac OS. This becomes incredibly important when looking at IoT and being able to get data from the edge up to a central system to be able to run on Linux, especially with the drivers communicating to the PLCs that we were just mentioning. So the cross-platform goes for both the server and for the runtimes for people who want to get access to the data. Ignition is built on IT standard technologies, so we leverage things that IT departments understand, like SQL databases, web services, connecting to Active Directory for authentication, SMTP, VoIP for voice notification, and standards like OPC UA, MQTT, and a lot more. And so nothing with Ignition is proprietary. It's not closed. It's all using open standards, interoperable. Very much to be transparent there. The way Ignition is architected is a server-client architecture. So you install Ignition on a central server. It's one place to install it, one place to manage it, one place to license it, one place to back it up. And the development environment comes with Ignition to build the application that we were talking about. And so once you have it on that server, we can simply go anywhere in our network and we can manage Ignitions, all done through the web, meaning open your browser, you can get access to that server and modify the configuration. You can launch the design environment on your desktop to build the application. Ultimately, you want to get that runtime to people, and that can be launched both on desktop and on mobile. One of the most important things about Ignition platform is it is a modular platform. So from the very beginning, we want it to be modular for two main reasons. One is we want customers to be able to pick and choose what modules that they want to work with. So if they just want, for example, the historian, they can get that. If they just want the visualization system, they can get that. They're meant to be independent there. But as a platform, the platform unifies everything, and it provides that core base. That's what you're installing, and we can easily add on new modules in the future. So we can't predict what the future is going to bring. Having a platform that we can scale horizontally that allows us to bring in those new features natively is really important. And the simplicity of adding the module, having it plug in, go to the designer, same design environment, take advantage of that module, save that, and that can be deployed instantly to everybody who wants to look at it. One of the reasons that Ignition can do so much and because it can handle any kind of application is really because of the connection points that it has. We have drivers built in to communicate natively to PLCs, for example, like Allen Bradley Ethernet suite of drivers, Siemens, Omron NJ, Opta22, SnapPack, DMP3, and a lot more. If we don't have a driver, though, we can communicate through OPC. We have a built-in OPC UA server, and we're also clients in a third-party OPC server, and a lot of devices now are supporting OPC UA on board. And that makes it really, really easy to get access to all that plant floor data. As I mentioned before, we use a lot of IT standard technologies, so databases is one important thing. We can log data to any SQL database. That could be MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, Postgres, any database you'd like. We're database agnostic, so that means we can work with them, and we can work with multiple different ones, bring a lot of information into the system. We also can communicate through MQTT, and it becomes really important for IoT, for edge, getting data from the edge, pulling to the edge of the network, decoupling our infrastructure, as well as be able to deliver information to the cloud. We communicate to other systems, other applications through web services. That could be done through REST or SOAP APIs. That could be other MES or ERP systems or maintenance management packages, whatever it might be. You want to be able to connect that, again, add more context to the application you have within the system. All of these different connection points that we've got, we can move data back and forth any way that we want. And it allows us to bring a lot of disparate systems together into one. And it makes that, gives that operator a lot more context, makes it easier for them to work with it. Ultimately, we can get that data to people's hands, and that can be done on their PC, regardless of the operating system. It could be done on touch panels, could be on mobile devices, like iOS or Android devices, TV displays, and a lot more. So with the licensing model being unlimited, being very simple, it allows us to really realize all the benefits of these connection points and to get that data to people without having to worry about buying more as you go along. It continues to scale up. And as Ignition being a platform, it's really important, for end of life of operating systems or hardware obsolescence that we're keeping the platform really, really simple. And for ease of install, ease of upgrade, and that as new versions of operating systems comes out, that we can run instantly on those, because you don't want to have to be stuck or tied to any particular OS or version of the OS. So it's important for us to be agnostic, to be able to handle all of those. So what are people doing with the Ignition platform? What kinds of things are they building? I mean, the idea is they can ultimately connect to any source of data. They can use the development environment to design, and they can deploy their solutions to anybody that's out there, really without any limits. The kinds of applications people are doing, of course, are HMI SCADA applications. It's a very common category. Building out a lot of robust tools for SCADA in particular with Ignition. Of course, robust alarming tools to be able to configure alarms, see status, log history, and as well as notify people through email, SMS, and voice, all being two-way, acknowledged from those sources. Building dynamic PDF reports, typically compliance reports, or any kind of report that can be scheduled, automatically be printed, saved, emailed, FTP'd. The edge computing is really big. Because we have drivers to PLCs, we can put Ignition at the edge of the network on constrained devices, like a Raspberry Pi or networking equipment, or cellular gateways, or 900 megas of radios. We can put our software on that equipment, push the polling to the edge network, and we can effectively get that data back to a central system very, very nicely, as well as to be able to have a local HMI in those critical assets, where if you lose comm, you can have that local visibility. Mobile is huge now, being able to get this information on people's phones and tablets, and with Ignition, it's done where it has with a module that allows you to have complete HTML5 pure web applications that are mobile responsive. With one project, you can look at on desktops, tablets, all the way down to phones. MES, of course, is a big part of what Ignition can do, from the tracking efficiency and downtime of production lines, to quality control, to recipe management, as well as to genealogy, or track and trace from tracking raw materials to finished goods, and being able to fully utilize that to see everything that's going on. And at the end of the day, you could deploy Ignition to a lot of different locations, and you want to be able to have a central administration or enterprise view of that. And that becomes important to be able to connect all these systems together, and to be able to deliver information to the business. Within Ignition, of course, there's a lot of advanced logic and scripting, and different engines you can build for really any custom development or any custom kind of application you want to work with. So it gives you a flavor of some of the things that people are doing with Ignition. In relation to MES, one of the important things that customers are doing are connecting Ignition to ERP systems, and in particular with SAP. And we have a module, as that logic that I was mentioning is one that's called the Business Connector, that allows for seamless integration between these enterprise systems and the manufacturing floors, playing right in that middle space. Being an ETL tool to really move data effectively back and forth. And with this, we have a native SAP interface that's SAP certified. You can develop really any kind of business logic. You can pull products or work orders, or send production information back in a really simple drag and drop interface, and where you can map data between Ignition and the other systems just by dragging and dropping those mappings. So it allows this to be done in a very robust, simple way without having to develop a lot of code, a lot of lines of scripting that can be very hard for somebody else to manage. It's all with MES for Ignition. It's all built on ISA95 with the Business Connector using B2MML to have these standards for ease of being able to move these larger objects. So this becomes a really important piece in delivering these full enterprise type solutions. So with that, hopefully you guys got a sense of what Ignition can do. It is as a platform, gives you a lot of possibilities, a lot of things that you can bring in and leverage. And we open the door by having the licensing model being simple and limited, so that a lot of innovation can happen with all the kinds of applications you want to work with. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you guys.
Excellent. Thank you, Travis. I appreciate that. Again, I will talk a little bit later about some of the stuff we've kind of done within Ignition and how it relates to some of the ASRS system development that we've done around that. On the topic of upgrading software, I want to go back and address some of that stuff. There are a few other items that are also needed to drive the upgrade of old systems and have them on a platform that is easier to keep up to date. Over the last few years, I think everybody's seen in terms of ransomware and viruses, the reported instances of attacks has dramatically increased. It should be noted this information is specific to our industry as a whole. So the data that's presented here is related specifically to the controls industry. It's becoming a very large and costly problem. This is an important point and one that often gets overlooked. It should be noted that this is only, again, for public companies that have to disclose this information to the SEC because of the losses. This is one of the first times the industry has seen an effective ransomware situation so large that it had to be reported. There are many private companies or smaller events that did not need to be reported. This was because the effect was so prevalent. That then makes it a concern, and the question needs to be asked. Is your system so outdated that it would not be in a position to recover from an attack? It can be a very expensive mistake to avoid outdated systems. Unfortunately, we've seen this effect with some of our customers, resulting in downtime and lost production. To quote our cybersecurity webinar, one of the things we want to avoid is the ostrich effect of sticking our head in the sand. Because you ignore it will not make it go away. Again, just another quote from the presentation there. A person should never avoid information because information can never hurt a decision. Businesses often think they're fine, but it can be costly to overlook something like this. So the question does come up, is your software up to date? If this is something you need assistance with, we have more information that can be found on our website. There's also a link to a webinar that was done in the past. Another thing we want to look at in terms of weaknesses of control systems and stuff is data backup. It's also very important to make sure that data is backed up. We've found, again, with virtualizing systems, often older systems don't have the ability to have regular backups. Again, in terms of virtualizing, using virtual machines allows for more secure isolation of systems, a central management point, routine backups, and less physical servers. This also allows companies' IT departments, where applicable, to assist with the managing of these systems and ensuring backups of the server stack are completed on a regular basis. Backing up data is very important. Another item that we want to address in terms of some weaknesses and stuff we've seen in the industry is in terms of communication protocols. Many older systems rely on outdated communication protocols such as serial, data highway, device net, or control net. Components which support these are often no longer made and are becoming difficult to replace. In the last few years, the industry has adopted a new standard called Ethernet IP. Ethernet IP offers more robust communication, allows for devices to be networked for easier monitoring. Ethernet IP can be isolated under control, networked, and managed for better security. This could affect all areas of the plant and technology. This could also affect your wireless networks, fiber networks, or even hardware switches in the plant. Again, we do have a group that can assist with that. If needed, there is information on our website. Just another quick note in regards to the interfaces and the various stages of their life cycle. So what can GrantTech offer in terms of assistance with some of this stuff? We have been working on system upgrades now for over 30 years, and we can definitely help with any platforms you may be on. We have experience with all the major industrial hardware companies such as Siemens, Mitsubishi, GE, Allen Bradley, and then it's mentioned Ignition and a variety of software applications. GrantTech doesn't create systems which we try to force fit our application to. We can work with a variety of vendors and technology. And I've seen we've had customers have us assist them with upgrading their automatic storage and retrieval systems and software. At this point, I would actually like to take the time now to introduce Josh Kohut, again, one of our high-level software programmers who helped create one of these solutions. He will now walk everyone through some of the specific ASRS graphics and details of what we've upgraded using the Ignition software.
Thank you, Jeremy. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the benefits, what you can get with custom software, how we get there, and a couple of specific applications that we've done recently that may be a benefit to you and your company. As with many of our projects, we start off by trying to gather the best understanding of your current system. how it works, how it's used by the operators, what issues they have with it, what type of features they would like to see to make their lives easier. To capture this information, we would often sit down with several of the operators on different shifts, watch how they use the system, and give them a chance to talk to us, letting us know their frustrations, things they'd like to see improved in a new system. And by sitting with multiple operators, this gives us the ability to have the best understanding of your needs so we can customize the software directly to you. Our goal is to develop an operator interface that is easy to use, where the operators have full knowledge of the inner workings of the systems. We have the ability to develop multiple custom algorithms to work in tandem with how you do shipments and deliveries. Using cameras on the cranes themselves, we even have the ability to do automatic inventory scanning. This allows the cranes to check the inventory by scanning the pallets in their bins to always have an up-to-date and verified inventory. We can easily develop custom reports with no limitations on number of reports. We always use the latest software and newest operating system to extend your end-of-life support. We even give you the ability to establish a security hierarchy. You can even sync that with your Windows Active Directory. And finally, most importantly, you own the software. You have the ability to access, update, modify, and investigate all the code. That means no more black boxes. One of the projects we did recently was an integration with the company's enterprise management system. As Travis was talking about earlier, in this case, they used SAP. So this type of deep integration is not something that is typically done at the warehouse level. And the benefits of this, however, allows for SAP to have full knowledge and tracking of the entire process, all the way from raw materials coming in to truckloads of finished products leaving the warehouse. This gives them the benefit of having better synchronization between the plants and the EMS at the warehouse level. We were able to accomplish this by using the Ignition and SAP connector Travis talked about earlier. We were able to establish a connection to SAP securely through the internet, even though the SAP system was located off-site. We just had to go through and set up some firewall rules, and then we were able to establish a connection just by setting up a user profile. And then the ASRS system was then able to read and write to different tables of SAP, just like any user could through the web interface. This gave our system the ability to do things such as write inventory changes directly to SAP. That way they can have live, up-to-date information. This gives them real-time feedback of production and deliveries. Since our system has the ability to read from SAP tables, this was easy for our system to automatically pick up new shipping orders created in SAP. These could be acted upon by the ASRS with no additional work by an operator. Lastly, this gives them the ability to manage things such as quality control and holds from one place at the enterprise level, because all changes in SAP could instantly be reflected back into the warehouse. Whenever a new system is installed, the most difficult time is typically the first few weeks after a changeover. Trying to understand the new system and becoming accustomed to an old system means that the operators will be less efficient, and they will often become frustrated with the new ways of doing things. A lot of integrators will offer training on a new system, but sometimes that's just not enough. GrantTech offers something more, something we call hypercare. Hypercare is a period of time after installing a new system, which we can, it can be anywhere from a few days to a few weeks. It's a time whenever a technician or an engineer that is very intimate with the system will sit with the operators, teach them how to use the system more efficiently, as well as make on-the-fly improvements to make it easier for the operators. This is often an exciting time for the operators as they get to work with someone who has intimate knowledge, learn how to use the system in the most efficient way, and even make requests for changes to the system. All of this is done in the name of making things easier for the operator. One other support system that GrantTech offers is our ticket system and remote support. We offer 24/7 support for customers who can't afford downtime. Using the 24/7 support line, you can request an engineer to call you back on the phone or even remote into your system and help you as needed. This offers more flexibility in a cost-effective manner. One thing that we can do with Ignition is provide something that is very valuable to many customers, and it's something that can often be difficult in other SCADA systems, and that is custom reports. Reports are a way that you can see exactly what's going on in your system, give you the best information you need to make the decisions you need. With Ignition, reporting is very easy. There's no limits on number of reports or even in the information that you can put in a report. As long as that information is available to the system, it's something that can be put into a report, and it can be delivered to you in multiple different ways, a few of which Travis talked about earlier. But the cool thing is these reports, when you're viewing them on the system, they're always live. They can be filtered, they can be printed, saved, and exported as PDFs or even Excels. A few examples of these reports can be inventory summaries, history tracking, utilization breakdown, statistics of throughput, and product distribution throughout the warehouse. And here's an example of one of our reports. You can see here on the left-hand side, there's different filter categories such as part number and pallet ID and locations. An operator can type different products in there. The report will automatically update, display all specific products that relate to the searched item, as well as you can filter and see on specific aisles, check their availability. You can search for different stock types or quality holds, what shift they came on, as well as how they entered into the system. And on top of that, there's different ways that you can organize the data. You can sort by store date, location, product number, or even a specific format that you and your company can use, whatever works for you. One thing that GrantTech does is it tries to study your workflow and design algorithms to improve the throughput. This includes creating better store algorithms to allow for product distribution, which prevents losing access to the product in the event of some hardware or electrical failure. Better tracking of pallets and information coming in and out of the warehouse is very valuable. Giving the ability to control those operations to work with your distribution schedule rather than against is something that will ultimately just improve your efficiency. Some of these things can be from priority-based task operations, custom throughput settings for retrieve and store only, balance of product across the warehouse, managing ASRS downtime, and dynamic task redistribution. It is our goal to make your system as efficient as it possibly can be. Because we live in a world of advancing technology and changing security risks, we always try to give you the latest and greatest software. This includes the newest operating systems to help delay end of life as much as possible, giving you the latest security updates to keep you safe. This also gives you an easy path to upgrade going forward. Ignition works on all major operating systems and can be easily migrated to newer version. What this allows you to do is stay up to date and have the ability to add new features and technologies. Using Ignition, you have the ability to create your own groups and levels of security, or even have this sync with your Active Directory. Users can be assigned to different groups, and they can have increased or restricted access to different functions in the system, and it's an easy way to prevent unauthorized people from using the system, and all user activity can be logged in an audit trail. Finally, ease of access. Ignition is a network-based software which can be accessed anywhere as long as you're on the same network. You are no longer limited to only access via the control room or system HMI. This means a supervisor in his office can connect to the software, monitor, or even print reports. However, important actions such as starting and stopping the system can be limited to a control room only. This gives you the freedom to add secure terminals easily anywhere in the plant with no additional software cost. Thank you for your time, and now I'd like to pass it back over to Jeremy to wrap up the presentation.
Thank you very much, Josh. As Josh had covered, we can provide a variety of support options depending on what flavor and the customer requires. We work with our customers to meet your needs. This means support from the initial start of the project through the life cycle of the project. We have experience necessary to keep systems up to date and help minimize risk. One of the big questions now that should come up is, where do we go from here? So in terms of systems and stuff and what's out there, one of the big things we like to do is to try to, again, help our customers understand where they are and where they need to go. I think from this point would be to have someone look into your systems and see what the current state is. Is the current system you have vulnerable? Is it something you need, do you need your system to do more? Is there more functionality and stuff that your system requires? Do we need more data from our system? Do we need more interaction between our system and other systems out there? If needed, GrantTech can help with this, but I really do want to emphasize the idea of getting out to your systems and seeing what you have out there. We do have some information on our website available, where anyone is welcome to reach out after this presentation for more information or to discuss what your needs may be. Our website does have details and white papers around a lot of these topics. Here's excuse me, sorry, there's we do have some information as mentioned. There's again, we do have a white paper that's available that talks about some of the storage and retrieval system stuff we've done, and also details some more of the HMI development and other system functionality and stuff that we have out there. Again, that's on our website if people would like more information around that. In terms of a summary, this is a summary of the white paper that's available. Just as we can see, it gives us some of the overview stuff, some of the challenges that we've had some of our customers have in terms of ERP integration. Also just talks about some of the benefits and solutions. So again, there's more information out there if needed. Lastly, to review, just to kind of go through some of the stuff as we talked about earlier on from the agenda, we're looking at why ASRS and why now. This focuses on the questions of your current system state or making sure you're planning ahead for the future. How up to date is your software? Antivirus updates, firewalls. Is it up to date, backed up for emergencies? Do you have your system virtualized, and is it easy to manage and maintain? These are the types of questions and stuff that individuals should start looking at. In terms of the top weaknesses of control systems, as mentioned, there's currently a lot of vulnerabilities in terms of viruses, malware attacks, or situations of operating system or hardware maturity. Again, something needs to be looked at, where possible. Hopefully, people's systems are all up to date and they don't have to worry as much about that. If you do find yourself in a situation where you do need some assistance with that, that's where GrantTech can offer our assistance. GrantTech has experience in all these areas, and we can assist you with a review, education, coming up with a plan, executing or delivering a solution to meet your needs. In terms of the opportunities and stuff we've kind of talked about there, as systems get more robust, there is a lot more data out there, and having the flexibility to adjust is very important. So we can take an older system and help to upgrade it, or even work with you on a new solution if you're looking to put a new ASRS system in to ensure it meets your needs. That can be done by being able to access more data, adding in automatic inventory scanning, dashboards, really helping understand what your needs are and what you need your system to do. In terms of examples, again, we have taken older systems. We've upgraded the front-end software to communicate and execute with SAP systems. We've upgraded crane controls, put in vision systems to automatically scan inventories, or even read line and pallet information to be tracked for traceability. With technology now, there are a lot of things that can be done to modernize your system and also help plan ahead for the future. At this point, I'm going to open up for questions. I'm going to just give it a few moments here. And I would ask that either Travis or Josh also may jump in. Looks like one of the questions I have right here now is there any standard module to connect Ignition to SAP, or is it a custom module developed by GrantTech?
So I'll take that. Yeah, in order to connect to SAP, that's the business connector module that I was referring to earlier. So the business connector module provides the foundation, the framework to do all that business logic, and then there's a direct SAP connector module as well that makes it super easy. You plug in, you can get connected right up to SAP on a standard SAP installation. So it makes it really easy to be able to interface with it, bring information in, and send information back through BAPIs or remote function calls.
Thank you, Travis. I have another question here. It says, that was a lot of information, and it sounds like there's a lot of risks. Where should someone start? I did address that a little bit, but one of the big things I would really emphasize there is start by going through any systems you have and look for concerns that you may have. A good way to do that as well is making sure you have an accurate inventory with the computer systems that are out there, noting hardware, software versions, and I would allow it. Basically, once you have that kind of information documented, it's a great way to review a lot of that. And then again, either you could have your individual IT or engineering groups take a look at that, or again, that is something that GrantTech could assist with as well. Just give another couple moments. While I'm waiting to see if there's any other questions and stuff coming in, I do want to thank everybody for their time and attending the presentation. And thank you very much to Travis and Josh for assisting as well. I do have another question here. It says, is there a list of ERP systems that the business connector can connect to?
At this moment, SAP is certainly the main one. We can connect to other ERP systems. There's not direct modules or connectors for that. We can connect to them through web services, so SOAP or REST APIs. That there's a web services module provides that plugs right into the business connector as well. So it does make it easy to connect to through SOAP or REST. But in the future, there's an opportunity there to have more direct connectors to specific ERP systems. But the main one there is SAP.
Thank you, Travis. I do another question here. Much of the guidance is really applicable to nearly older control systems. What are the two things that are unique to ASRS applications? So guidance from two things that are unique to ASRS applications. Is that something you wanted to take a talk to, Josh?
Sure. So one of the big things that a lot of our customers have loved recently is the same thing that Travis has been talking about, and that's the business connector module. So using that and connecting to an ERP such as SAP really allows us to keep our systems in sync. And for something like an ARS, you have a lot of product coming in, you have a lot of product coming out. And when it comes to things like financials and trying to figure out how much has been produced, how much is actually making it to the warehouse, how much is actually being shipped out and stuff like that, there's a lot of different places where things can go wrong, where product can get, the information, the communication between the two systems can kind of get lost. Breaking it down and having everything, as opposed to, working through batch files and, any old systems that you might have, having it, connect directly into, the different BAPIs for SAP and stuff like that allows us to keep up-to-date information so that things going on in the warehouse, in the ASRS, every time that a product gets stored, boom, shows up in SAP. Anytime product gets retrieved, boom, we send a message to SAP saying, hey, this has been sent down to the dock, and then SAP can, move it to where it needs to go, whether that be the floor or, to some specific trailer. And the other thing that I would say is specific to the ASRS is a lot of older systems, are really just kind of black boxes in the sense that they don't understand how they work. Sometimes they've noticed a lot of their high-rise cranes just sitting there idle. They don't understand why. They're getting errors that don't really make sense and stuff like that. With the software that we can provide, we want to make sure that you understand everything that's kind of going on there. We want to make sure that if the cranes are idle, you know exactly why. And if, a lot of the time that we found in older systems is sometimes there's just bugs in the software that have just crept up over years of use, that there's a lot of room for efficiency. The cranes can be doing more. They can optimize whether they're going to do a retrieve or a store. waiting for different things depending on how fast you need to get product down to the dock so that you can load stuff into the trailers and for all your distribution schedules and stuff like that. The custom software that we can offer is something that we can tie into your distribution schedule. And whether that be through SAP or through other types of software, we can connect to that, and we can develop exactly what you need to work as efficiently as you need it, rather than you just having to work with the old system that it is the way it is.
Thank you, Josh. There's another question here that discusses, would you be able to share some of the lessons learned after implementing projects in this field? A follow-up to that, as well as any cybersecurity concerns and any limitations in ignition functionality. Is that, again, something, Josh, you would like to take care of? In sharing some of the lessons learned in terms of implementing these projects and some of the cybersecurity stuff we've seen?
Sure. So we were reached out to by a customer who had interest in upgrading their high-rise system, and we started going through the process of gathering the information. We realized that they had 2 servers. They were supposed to be redundant servers, and they were physical servers, and they were not virtualized, and they were both handling all the communications to and from the system and stuff like that. And but one of them was not working like it was supposed to. It was not redundant, or it was supposed to be redundant, but it wasn't working. And in the middle of our process of gathering the information, they were hit by a ransomware attack. This caused their everything in the plant to kind of go down. All the product that was in their high rise was unable to be retrieved because the software that was used to control everything, it was all corrupt. Nothing could be used. So I guess that this is more of a lesson learned in not necessarily for us, but for this customer, is that they were basically on their last thread. They had redundant servers that were not being backed up, but one of the servers was not even working, so it was only running off the one. And call it bad luck or whatever you want to call it, but they got hit by this ransomware, and they got hit pretty hard. So as Jeremy was saying, it's really important for people to take a look at your systems and understand, could you withstand some sort of cybersecurity attack like that? And for a lot of people, we find out that the answer is no. And a lot of people think that it's not going to happen to us, but I just referred to you to that graphic that we showed earlier. Those are some big name companies, and they lost billions and billions of dollars. And you could be assured that a lot of them put a lot of time and a lot of money into security related things. So that was definitely a big concern for them. And even if they just acted just a couple months sooner, they might not have been in that situation. So definitely a lesson learned is, try to be proactive, try to understand that, it's working now, but if something happens, or even if their second server died, they would have been just in the same boat, and that's not a great position to be in.
The last part of that question there, Josh, mentions limitations in terms of the ignition functionality. I know we used a lot of different features and did a lot of different things. Is there anything you would note in terms of us pushing ignition to the limits?
I don't want to say this just to kind of sell it, but in all the requests that we've kind of gotten, the limitations that we've encountered have not been from ignition itself. We've noticed that a lot of our customers want better feedback from their the conveyor systems or their tracking systems and stuff like that. Things that are pre-existing hardware, and most of the limitations that we have come from them learning about their systems. Like, a lot of them realize that they thought they had conveyor tracking when in reality, they don't. A lot of the sensors that they have don't work in the way that they assumed that they did. So those definitely provided some limitations on what the customer wanted to accomplish. But when it came to Ignition itself, there really hasn't been anything that we've been limited to, for the requests that we've gotten from customers.
Thank you. There's another question here in terms of much of what we discussed here relates to Crane and ERP integration. Do we have experience in robotics integration with ERP? That's something actually I haven't come across specifically. That'd be something I would probably have to talk to someone else within GrantTech to see. So if there is something more specific around that, that might help to send us an email with some more information and stuff, and I can address that in more detail.
Sure. I would like to add a couple comments to that.
Sure.
So although the focus kind of was on the ASRS, that's just kind of what we chose to focus on. But the business connector is not necessarily related to, a high-rise system. It's the business connector is basically something that Ignition uses to establish the communication or the connection to SAP or other ERPs through the web module. And typically what we've done is we take information, whether it be in an Oracle database or a SQL database. Those are the two main ones that a lot of companies use, and that information can be used and utilized by Ignition to send information to write information to the ERP, as well as read information from the ERP. And then that information that's read through this business connector module can be stored in the local database. Now, the system, once it has it in the database, whether that be SQL or Oracle, can then act upon it. So although we haven't done robotic integration with the ERP, we have separately done integration with ERP, and we have done integration with robotics with some of our customers. And to do the integration with robotics, we have used Ignition for that. This company just didn't have an ERP that they wanted us to connect to. They had other routes that they wanted to do that. So it's definitely something that can be done. And even though we kind of focused on the ASRS related side, as long as you have a server running on any major operating system, as long as you can install Ignition on that, and then you have data that we can access, whether it be through a SQL or directly from machines themselves, that information can be integrated with the ERP.
Well, thank you, Josh. That's good to know. And then the last question I have here is for Travis. How can Ignition help with operating system obsolescence or hardware end of life?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Like I said earlier, Ignition being a platform that was focused from the very beginning to be cross-platform, to run any flavor, Windows, Linux, and OS, Mac OS, or others. We put a lot of work and focus into making sure that we have that platform independence. So as new versions of OSs are coming out, they're definitely being tested. Everything's right there, and it's typically the first day Ignition can run on that equipment or on that operating system. And with hardware, we have direct connectors and drivers to all these different pieces of hardware that are out there. As far as PLC, so if one PLC becomes you want to upgrade to another, we have the obviously ability to connect to that PLC, and we can remap tags or object structures, and that really becomes important when looking at MQTT and having the decoupled of the application from the device itself, where we could upgrade pieces of those and not affect the actual system, because all we got to do is do the remapping once. So it makes that part pretty easy. Plus the fact that a lot of people are getting into edge computing or in the virtualization or in the cloud. A lot of Linux environments that people are migrating to. And so for the fact that Ignition runs the full stack runs there, makes it really, really easy. And so we're not tied to any specific, version or specific operating system. So again, that platform independence just becomes important.
All right, thank you, Travis. Well, at this point, we're almost at time, so I'm going to wrap up the presentation. I'd like to thank everyone very much for attending. Hopefully there's some useful information and stuff that people have learned from this. Again, I do want to encourage everyone to go out there and really take a good look at your systems and understand just kind of what you have, and do a good inventory in terms of what's out there, and making sure that your systems are protected and up to date, and that your systems are doing what you expect of them. So again, thank you very much for your time. Please feel free to reach out with any questions and anything else you may need. Thank you very much.